Stories about all sorts of creepy and incomprehensible anomalies, secretly investigated by the government, are firmly planted in the brains of players and developers. Craft of reckoning degrees of artisanship on the TSP setting is not to count, but even big developers like Remedy, with their Control, have looked into the subject. And what if the whole idea of anomalies is brought from the gloomy concentrate laboratories to the American expenses? This is exactly the question that Pacific Dry game offers. Well, let's try to find the answers. A brief plot introduction says that in 1937 the US government began to conduct experiments with new technology on the territory of the Olympic Peninsula. Information about this land reached the general public only in the form of rumors, then miraculous inventions, then strange incidents. At some point the government evacuated the entire population, surrounded the region with an impressive wall and blocked all entrances. What happens inside the peninsula remained a mystery for many decades. Our story begins in 1980, when a faceless nameless driver, that is us, was about to drive along the wall and a mysterious flash pulled him inside the zone. On the spot he finds his car and contacts the local scientists. They are only happy to help our hero, but there is a problem. With both the wall and the nature of the peninsula, most of the territory has nothing to do with the usual reality, and obviously with our pathetic three-dimensional perceptions, there is nothing to do there. That's why we have to drive through the stability zones, where there are little less strange things. In exploring the roads and overcoming numerous danger, we'll help the very found car. However, there is one caveat. The vehicle turns out to be an echo. This is a common name for all the artifacts of the zone, which have unusual properties, but the owners are slowly going crazy. So for the sake of salvation, we will have a participate in sort of dubious adventure of local clever people. There are few thoughts about the plot, but I will suggest this conversation through the trunk until the end of our trip. It's a mental try. In general, Pacific Drive is a survival game, but not about building a hut in the forest and eating pacing animals. Here we turn our car into a mobile fortress, which will protect us from the weirdness and dangers of the Olympic zone. Actually, the whole game is divided into two parts: Quirks and outings. In the first one we engage in repairing the chariot and creating new parts. In the second one we choose one of the sectors on the map and go to the road. Let's start with trips. The entire map of Peninsula is divided into many separate locations, and each expedition consists of visiting a chain of different places. That is, we choose a distant destination and on the way do it with pass-through intermediate points. Each location is a piece of open world, not very big, but spacious enough to accommodate roads, a dozen huts and fire around. We can either just keep through it all or linger to collect orphans' resources. Among other things, on the road we have to avoid all sorts of anomalies. Power transmission towers, send lightning bolts, hovering drone grab us with magnetic tug and drag us to the known destination. Exploding dummies block the roads. In short, our wagon is constantly in trouble, and without regular maintenance, driving truth into torture. And the whole interior lets in integration radiation. That's why we have to get out the cabin often and do repairs in the field. For simple dance, a portion of special repair parts is enough, but from time to time these are specific problems that require all sorts of kits with tools. In short, prepare in advance of assemble on the spot from impossible materials. After accomplishing the goals of the expedition, it remains only to return to the garage. To do this, you need to find special spheres, charge the iron horse with them and open the portal. Then the fun begins, as a storm is coming on the map, corroding the hull and spoiling health, so we need to get away quickly. After a successful jump into pillar of light, we find ourselves back in the garage. Exercise at the basic is a pleasant routine. We unload and scatter everything that we got during the raid, and then start working on the car. As mentioned earlier, for every problem there is a different answer. A simple body repair is a swipe of spatula with repair paste, a flat tire sealant, fluttering engine, a precise stab with a wrench from a mechanics kit. Not to mention the need to fill the fuel tank and change the battery. All this is done conveniently. On the wall hangs a special screen that displays the necessary information. All that remains is to start the hustle and bustle. We should also tell you about a malfunction called paradox. It's not enough for us to have the zone's oddities, but the car starts to get all sorts of weight. At some point you notice that when you close the hood, the lights in the cabin come up, or when the wipers go to the left, the headlights flash brightly for a second. These are paradoxes, and by their quality they vary from barely noticeable to harmful and even dangerous, which definitely adds pepper to the races. I once had a combo of two paradoxes. One would switch to radio when I turned the steering wheel to the left, and the other would open the rear left door upon hearing music. It was most annoying quite even. The door swung open time after time until I finally came off and disappeared in the middle of the vastness of the zone, and the spare gas tank that resisted in the passenger seat was deteriorating from exposure. However, here is a case that is the word annoying wants to do use not to criticize. It was just a memorable episode that decorates the next trip, and it's interesting to tell about it. But the correction of paradoxes can be criticized a bit. In general, the process is simple. In the garage at special station, you need to make a description of the problem from keywords. For example, steering wheel turns to the left, headings become brighter. If you have specified all 4 points correctly, the game calls the ingredient for repair. Hand it over. Problem solved. The catch is that the system is too picky about description. That is often separate status items like on, off, switching, not on, not off. It seems to be clear what problem is, but the station accepts a very precise wording and does not accept variants that are close in meaning. At least the correct parts of answers are underlined, and if you exhaust 8 attempts, you will have to go and hike with paradoxes. You will be able to run the diagnostic again after returning from the expedition. But from the trips into the depths of the zone, we need more than just car on the move. That's where the system of improvements come in, and special station we can research various blueprints and use them to make new part of the car. At the beginning it will be good to just make a steel body for the car, and by the middle of the game specialized part with a protection from radiation, corrosion and other troubles are open. In addition, the car can be equipped with a lot of quality things, a lighting rod, a radar for resources, or just a huge battery on the roof. In general, assembling your own rover to conquer the zone is the most exciting part of the Pacific Drive. There are many different options for equipment, and there is always something to explore. For example, to make a self-sufficient electric vehicle, install a Predator engine as well as screw-on wind turbine, hydroelectric generator and solar panel. Not to mention the visual progression, the car eventually transformed into an armored marvel of engineering. Finally, fans of self-expression in the vastness of the zone can get paint cans and stickers on the board to then give the chariot a decent look. In general, the assembly system is completely furnished. When creating any item, the required parts are automatically picked up from cabinets and drawers, so you don't need to search for light bulbs on the menu. In addition, the game shows if there are tools available and where they are located, garage, car or backpack. A great thing to check if you have a complete travel kit for the conquest of the zone, but it's not without its problems. Pacific Drive has several bias in the rarity of resources, and the further into the bubbles in the zone, the more acute it is felt. In brief, some materials are accumulated by hundreds in cabinets and others vaporize as soon as you make a high-tech thing. That's kind of how it should be, but the situation doesn't seem quite right here. You are still trying to find ordinary materials when all the cupboards are full, and despite the wealth, you often find yourself in a situation where you can't make the right thing. The same plastic or glass shards can be found in any of the regions, but the local metal Olympus is found only in the distant inner zone, and even then its deposits are rare and poor, while all late-game improvements require it by the dozens. The only thing worse is the protective clothing for the driver. All sorts of capes and gloves require so many resources that it's easy to make a set of full lead coated doors. For better or worse, we won't need to top off the progression. Of course, under the final game we will test the car for strength, but the best armor and the most advanced gadget are not necessary. And the ending decides to split on the semblance of complexity. That's where we come to the plot. It's time to hit the finish line. It's a little way to write this after 3 paragraphs of outrage, but Pacific Drive can definitely be called a thing of atmosphere and fun. Everything about driving and exploring the Olympic zone is done perfectly. You hit into lands full of danger, collect valuables, and then fly into the glitching portal to race against the storm. And in the garage meet a lot of things to do. Fix the body, buy the tires from the fans to collect a new device for the roof, and with the North Vigo to meet the adventures. In addition, it's just beautiful atmospheric, forests, swamps, and lot of animalities. And what fogs and storms are here. The only thing that lets the game down is the plot. It's hard to call it a catastrophe, but it doesn't ignite interest. The ending is unpleasantly surprising when it prioritizes wandering instead of driving. I stayed in the Pacific Drive world for the roads and car building, but not for the chattering scientist. And as is the case with many works, the adventure turns out to be far more interesting than the destination.